The Battle of Detroit saw the American forces triumph over two Iroquois troops. Despite this defeat, the Iroquois would not accept a peace accord. This was fine by America, which was beefing up its military for defensive purposes, but also so it would be possible to penetrate the Iroquois homeland and tear up its infrastructure projects as punishment for their insolence. Taking citizens' mind off the war was the introduction of tobacco to the American market. Most of the United States was able to partake in the product harvested just outside Washington, albeit at fairly high prices given its short supply. Nonetheless, the public loved smoking the plant, and many profits were made accordingly. All the while, Iroquois troops approached Detroit yet again, though they be dispatched at no losses just as the prior invasion force was. What was of great concern was the division of tomahawk warriors approaching Philadelphia. They were extremely lethal on the defensive, and thus it was hoped they'd assault the city's archers, where they'd be at a serious disadvantage. The Iroquois finally opened negotiations, but demanded a massive sum for peace. The despots Face and Palm had a habit of becoming close friends for the duration of the war. They demanded a hefty sum for peace, which was refused given that America had no real threat to fight at the time. The Iroquois' first great action of the war was completed in 1475 BCE. They pillaged a lone road north of America's defensive lines. America was so appalled that it didn't even notice. It was too busy founding the city of St. Louis to the south to particularly care what the aggressive power to the north was capable of. America did make lucrative use of its rapid-moving government security forces to butter the tomahawk warriors up for standard infantry, however. Despite the one-sided nature of the war, and the fact it was grinding the Iroquois economy to a halt, even by 1450 BCE the Iroquois were not willing to accept even a white peace. It would have taken the entire American economy 5 terms to yield what the Iroquois had lost in terms of manpower, and yet they were still too stubborn to accept a peace treaty. The Iroquois mustered 65 shields worth of troops to the west of Michigan, understanding how utterly terrible their troops were and instead trying to go towards St. Louis like the cowards they were. The 2 tomahawk warriors were taken care of at the cost of 1 American warrior, a 40 shield for 10 shield trade. The continued triumphs of America's military coincided with America's entry into an age of science, where research was enormously through the roof. Oklahoma City's founding greatly expanded the domain of the United States, while also putting it into direct confrontation with the hostile tribes of the region. Nonetheless, it was apparent America was prospering despite the war, probably to the Iroquois' chagrin, who kept seeing all their economic efforts to defeat the united despots increasingly in vain. With the slaughter of a spearmen division that was outside St. Louis, such sentiment was solidified further. The mighty Iroquois Confederacy was in no position to make demands of America. Archers prepared to do battle with the barbarian tribes to the south of Tallahassee in 1300 BC, seeking to remove their threat to the Southern Empire's security. Warriors were brought in to be used as arrow fodder. They would become martyrs for the American cause. Rather than be doomed, however, the warrior division fought valiantly and eliminated the barbarian threat. They instead became heroes. A trade with the Aztecs broke the back of the country, but it was decided to ultimately be key if the Iroquois were to be defeated. The wealth paid to the Aztecs was promptly taken back by the sale of literature practices to the Mexican people. Books became a staple of Mexican society as much as American, fostering brotherhood between the two cultures. The fact Mexico had to stay friendly to keep receiving its gold payments was also a good incentive. The Anasazi of Florida taught the secrets of an organized legal system to Americans, enabling government to become increasingly more complex, not to mention more tyrannical. Now all the citizens knew the law they would follow, or be punished harshly. 1150 BCE, the long American Iroquois War finally concluded. The Americans had lost but a single warrior, whereas the Iroquois had lost countless more. A small tribute was paid so that if the Iroquois ever got wise, they would lose their source of revenue.